sur le Cameroun. Pour la route comme ça.
History has not forgotten that Buea was the headquarters of West Cameroon. History has not forgotten that Buea was the capital of southern Cameroon. And history has not forgotten that Buea was once the capital of German Cameroon. That is why I say that Buea is a historic town. I am proud, very proud to be in Buea, proud to walk on the same soil like our heroes.
Good afternoon. This is Comrade Fonton Daniel. I will be speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States, on the royal betrayal of Queen Elizabeth, deprived the people of Southern Cameroon of their right and privilege to exist as a sovereign nation. We're going to dive into these discussions about why was the people of Southern Cameroon the prime example. Well, but before I come into this critical discussion, I want to take a moment to thank our fellow brothers and sisters who are all scattered around the world and fighting for this common good of the people of Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon never deserved to be in this forefront of this royal betrayal. Of course, many people will call and say, oh, the Cameroon. When you call Southern Cameroon, they say Cameroon, because they have turned the culture to the tune of their personal egoistic. And it is our collective effort, all of us, to bring out this and put it to the plain for everyone to see why the people of Southern Cameroon has become the target of destroy. And fellow brothers and sisters here in the United States, those in Europe, I know some are probably sleeping, and those in Ground Zero, I want to thank those in Ground Zero for their collective effort to be able to sustain this war that has taken us to this Amazonian War of Independence, that has sustained to this critical moment that we find ourselves. Of course, when Paul Biya in October 17, 2017 returned to his own commercial airport, he says that we're going to decimate our people. Decimate our people in their own land, in their territory, and they're going to decimate them and occupy by the French. Wait a minute. I mean, this is a critical moment we find ourselves. Who is La Republique in the first place? Because if we understand La Republique, then we can then find out why are they in our homes, in our relatives, in our every aspect of our life. And that is when the royal betrayer comes in to sustain La Republique du Cameroon for the common good of the British government in a systematic failure. Whatever it is, but I want to thank all our brothers elsewhere that have taken this critical moment and think about what do we really want? Are we going to sustain or are we going to succumb to La République du Cameroon invasion? But anyway, whatever the circumstances, it is the critical moment now. We need to, first of all, start into deeply, and find out how did we find ourselves in the midst of this crisis. Of course, I'm gonna dig into that as we fall into discussion. The royal betrayal, but the royal betrayal. It is vital. It is vital that we speak up. It is vital that we speak up and ask vital questions, and to understand and to educate others the importance of what is Southern Cameroon. For those who may not know what is Southern Cameroon are people that are intended to be wiped out in the face of this earth, that it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Should we have an honest British government, honest to itself? Stay tuned, don't go away.
History has not forgotten that Buea was the headquarters of West Cameroon. History has not forgotten that Buea was the capital of Southern Cameroon. And history has not forgotten that Buea was once the capital of German Cameroon. That is why I say that Buea is a historic town. I am proud, very proud to be in Buea, proud to walk on the same soil like our heroes. Was the headquarters of West Cameroon. History has not forgotten that Buea was the capital of Southern Cameroon. And history has not forgotten that Buea was once the capital of German Cameroon. That is why I say that Buea is a historic town. I am proud, very proud to be in Buea, proud to walk on the same soil like our heroes.
He is proud to be in a historic cap of Southern Cameroon. That is the dictator Paul Biya of the neighboring country, La République du Cameroon. He's given the historical significance, the importance of Southern Cameroon. But I am going to dive into, but before I go into that, let's look at, I want to first of all talk about the issues of, before I come into this, the betrayal, let's first of all look at the key questions and the Biafran questions. I think that is very, very important that I talk about it. The Biafran questions. It's very, very important that I talk about the Biafran questions. Well, Southern Cameroon vis-a-vis the Biafran questions. There is a significant differences between the people of Biafra and the people of Southern Cameroon. They are not unanimously the same or significant. The fact that the United Nations allowed for nation or individual people or indigenous, that's the word the United Nations frequently use, the indigenous, So the indigenous can be any part of a nation that was part of a nation of the part of the member key of the United Nations. So therefore, the people of indigenous fall under those categories. So there is a great difference between the indigenous people of Biafra vis-a-vis the Nigeria as a sovereign nation. There is a significant difference between the people of Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroon. Stay tuned, hold on for a moment. Okay, yeah. So I want to talk about the Biafran questions vis-a-vis the people of Southern Cameroon. The United Nations frequently utilize the word indigenous. Indigenous means the indigenous people can be people of a nation that are seeking for freedom from the nation that is part of a United Nations member nations. And so that is why they frequently use the word indigenous. So the people of Biafra categorically are classified under indigenous people of Biafra in Nigeria. There is a great people of Biafra. They are not the same, just like one could say cocoyam and rice. They are two different vegetables food, but they are not the same. But they quench the hunger and taste, but they are not exactly the same. So, on the question of the people of Southern Cameroon, the people of Southern Cameroon is totally different from the Biafra, indigenous people of Biafra. Southern Cameroon is a registered member of the United Nations. They are registered member of the United Nations. Article 1514 called for decolonizations. The Article 1514 called for decolonization. So Southern Cameroon are part of the Decolonization Act of the United Nations, which means Southern Cameroon was part of territorial integrity that should be supervised by the United Nations. Biafra is not part of the territorial integrity that need to be supervised by the United Nations. So in 1960, when Nigeria became an independent nation, January 1st, if I'm not mistaken, Nigeria became an independent nation in 1960, just as La République du Cameroon in 1960. Biafra was territorial integrity of Nigeria. Biafra was territorial integrity of Nigeria. On the question of Southern Cameroon in particular, Southern Cameroon wasn't part of the territorial integrity of La République du Cameroon. In fact, when France, I'm going to deal with it, when France, under the United Nations decisions that the territory under the United Nations be prepared for their rightful independence, France, the colonial master, was preparing La République for immediate independence. Southern Cameroon wasn't part of those preparations. Southern Cameroon wasn't part of those preparations. And so when France finally tabled La République du Cameroon for a sovereignty, Southern Cameroon was in part. So, when British administering authority tabled Southern Cameroon for their immediate independence or conditional independence, which I'm going to deal with it, why it became a condition. La République du Cameroon wasn't part. In fact, the voting that took place, La République du Cameroon, under the mandate of France, requests that all the territory that were under the French control shouldn't vote for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon, so that they overwhelmingly will leave the people of Southern Cameroon in a limbo. But unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. 64 nations voted to recognize the people of Southern Cameroon. So the people of Southern Cameroon cannot be a similar case with the people of Biafra. It cannot. It doesn't have the same organigram, the same case, or the same integrity. It doesn't. On the Nigerian questions, to understand why Nigeria was the vast buffer zone under the British administrative authority, and that is why the British administrative authority was set up in Enugu in Nigeria, where it can be able to administer, because Nigeria was more vast than the Southern Cameroon. So therefore, they set authority in Nigeria. And so that they can be able to, so the elected officials of Southern Cameroon meet at the Enugu House of Assembly in Nigeria to debate about the issues affecting Southern Cameroon and the issues affecting Nigeria. So the administering authority, that's the British representative, per United Nations mandate, will meet in Nigeria, in which Biafra was part of Nigeria. It wasn't a separate. So therefore, you cannot mix the people of Southern Cameroon and classify them with the same as the Biafra. There is a great distinction between the two. Let's look at now, let's look at integrity. Before I go into that, let's look at a letter written by the British Foreign Secretary to me. A letter written was referred by the British House of Lords to the British Foreign Secretary, addressed to me, in which they argue on the point that the people of Southern Cameroon voted in 1961 to join La République du Cameroon. Therefore, Britain has no authority, no moral authority in whatsoever to intervene. Let's look at what the British read. I have the letter here. Let me read it. Then before I go into the theoretical aspect of how and when and how did we arrive here, let's just be patient. This is a foreign Commonwealth Development Office. The letter was sent to me from the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office on November 12, 2020. I am not going to read the entire details of the letters, but I'm going to emphasize a key point in which the UK government they say they recognize the report of human rights abuse perpetrated by La République du Cameroon, and that the UK ambassador set up a human rights council since 15 September, and those abuse of violence as anywhere in the world. The British government continued to raise the concern at the highest level. When the British commissioner in Yaoundé spoke to the Prime Minister of Cameroon in September, he urged the government of Cameroon to engage further inclusive dialogue. The UK have been talking about an inclusive dialogue with the people of Southern Cameroon, with the neighboring country, La République du Cameroon. There is a problem. The way the people of Southern Cameroon are treated by La République du Cameroon and the way La République is treated its citizens There is a great distinction. Professor Maurice Kamto was arrested. He had a support from the French presidency to be released. He had the support from the French presidency that Professor Maurice Kamto be released. And yet, our citizens are still in that junkyard Kondenge prison. Some are dying in chain. Some are dying without even have a drink of water. Some are even chained and die in their chain bed, and yet they don't have food or medicine. Those are not something I make up. It's a fact and reality. How we, the citizens of Southern Cameroon, are being treated by the neighboring country, La République du Cameroon. When France urged La République to release, UK is yet to ask our citizens to be released. They remain muted. UK government remain muted. But in their correspondence here, they say they've raised it to the highest level. In my reference, I quoted United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1514 XV on my letter to them, and I talk about 1608 XV, the two itinerary document of the United Nations vis-a-vis the people of Southern Cameroon. In this response, they said the UK recognized the outcome of the 1961 referendum and organized by the United Nations, in which Southern Cameroon, modern Anglophone region, voted to join La République du Cameroon. United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1608 XV endorsed the result of the plebiscite in Southern Cameroon, in which we expect the territorial integrity of Cameroon. That is UK Foreign Office in response to my letter that they recognize the territorial integrity of Cameroon. The United Nations Resolution 1514 XV state that the territory be given their rightful independence. Why was the people of Southern Cameroon given a conditional sovereignty? It's on the vote. I'm going to read that later. It says Southern Cameroon should opt for an independent. So therefore they are an independent nation. Then joining La République du Cameroon of equal status. Let me read from the United Nations resolution. The result of the plebiscite. The result of the plebiscite. It says the Northern Cameroon have by substantial majority and achieve independent. So the northern region achieve independent, then join Nigeria. So therefore the northern achieve independent, then join Nigeria of two equal status, irrespective of the population of Nigeria. That's the northern part. So Section B, in reference to the Southern Cameroons, achieve independence, then second, join La République du Cameroon. In this scenario, in this case, that's not my document, that's the United Nations document. If Southern Cameroon achieve independence, then secondly, join La République du Cameroon, therefore, both are of equal status. If both are of equal status, how did the Republic of Cameroon become the sole controller of the people of Southern Cameroon, that the people of Southern Cameroon has been downgraded to a status that they will depend on La République du Cameroon? That was the complicity of the British government. Check and balance were never followed up in this case. So the people of Southern Cameroon, and that is why the British government, in their poor argument or judgment, in their audacity that the people of Southern Cameroon voted to join the Republic of Cameroon. That is what it says, achieve independence, then join La Republique du Cameroon, In subsection of that very document, it says on section 5 of the United Nations resolution, invites administering authority, the government of the Southern Cameroon, invite the administering authority, the government of Southern Cameroon, and the Republic of Cameroon to initiate an urgent discussion to finalize before October 1st, 1961. I want to ask the UK government to specify where those arrangements were made. First, there was an election that occurred in the north, in which the northern voted to join Nigeria as an independent nation, and then joining Nigeria of equal status, irrespective of the population, the size, and the amount of people, because they are a sovereign nations. This arrangement that expected to have been done, nothing was done. The so-called the Fumban talks, in which UK synonymously speak about, it was a friendly gesture that was organized by La Republique du Cameroon, in which many women were being deposited from Fumban and gathered around the premises. So they spent time having merrymaking rather than discuss the issues between the two nations, which never existed. On the vote of the election of what they say was supposed to take place, there is no way I found that the voting actually took place. There was absolutely none. It was in a betrayal of the people of Southern Cameroon by the UK government. And that is why the slaughtering of our citizens continue in that aspect. Let's look at Southern Cameroon vis-a-vis the British government. Of course, after the Allied forces defeated Germany and the rest of the other member of Germany alliances, by then they have what they call the League of Nations. The League of Nations was an organization that oversees member states, maintain peace and security. But when the League of Nations collapsed or was revised to form what is now known as the United Nations, the United Nations General Assembly was meeting in San Francisco on the 26th of June, 1945. The members of the League of Nations, or now the United Nations, meeting in San Francisco, 26th of June, 1945. The resolution A/151.212 December 1946. That was the resolution of the General Assembly. This lay out the relationship between the people of Southern Cameroon and the administering authority of the British. Let's look at what the League of Nations, Article 22 of the Covenant of the League of Nations, mandate the Brittany Majesty. The Article 22 of the Covenant of the League of Nations, Article 75 of the United Nations Charter, and this more specifically, the Southern Cameroon, the Majesty Queen. So it laid the foundation work for Franco-British Cameroon, which is Southern Cameroon. Of that document, He said, His Majesty designated an administering authority by His Majesty government in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and the Northern Ireland. Article 3 and Article 76. You all know why Article 76. Article 76 of the United Nations Charter terminates the trustee agreement. That is why I call 1608 XV and Part 76B, because Part 76B terminates the trustee agreement. Let's look at what UK should have done with the people of Southern Cameroon. These outline what should have been done by the UK vis-à-vis the people of Southern Cameroon. The administering authority shall be responsible. The administering authority, Article 4 of the San Francisco, Article 4 of the San Francisco provide the United Nations, Article 75 of the United Nations Charter signed at San Francisco on the 26th of June 1945, lay out the groundwork what British government must comply in dealing with the people of Southern Cameroon. The administrative authority shall be responsible for the peace, good governance, and defense of the territory, and for ensuring that they shall be part of the maintenance of international peace. That was Article 4 of the San Francisco Ordinance vis-à-vis the people of Southern Cameroon. The administering authority, the purpose of the agreement, Section A, in administering authority, there shall be full power of legislation, administration, judiciary, and territory. In the territory, administered in accordance with the law of integral part of authority. So there shall be a legislative, administration, jurisdiction. So they shall have a democratic form of government that is specified of that San Francisco Ordinance of the United Nations vis-à-vis the people of Southern Cameroon. Section B, the entity shall constitute a territory of the custom, fiscal, administrative union, fiscal adjacent territory, and the sovereign control and establishment of common services in the territory in such ensure that they are consistent with the basic objective of international norms. In other words, it lays out the terms in which the British government must administer. So, in other words, the British respect the terms of the San Francisco in the fact that they allow the people of Southern Cameroon to have a democratic institution. And that is why you see that the people of Southern Cameroon has a democratic institution in West Africa than any other nation in West Africa as a whole. I know people classify it as Central Africa. But anyway, the people of Southern Cameroon enjoy democratic institution, the first elected government in West Africa, the first democratic elected institution in West Africa, in which La République doesn't. La République doesn't. La République has never established this form of democratic institution in the first place. But in the terms of peace and security, the terms of the agreement, it shall establish the naval military base and erect and fortification. It allowed the British to establish a naval base, military, and enforce the territorial integrity of Southern Cameroon. And the defense to ensure that maintenance of international peace and security are in place. Those are the San Francisco meeting in 1946 on the question of Southern Cameroon. Let's look at Article 6 of part of that San Francisco resolutions. It says free political institution suited to the territory. Those are what is specified what UK must do, or the Majesty must do vis-a-vis the people of Southern Cameroon. Advisory legislative body in the government, in which they should recognize the establishment of Southern Cameroon government and allow for its body to be able to supervise provides its military reform and other forms of essential services in southern Cameroon. Let's look at Article 7 of the same resolutions, a provision of international convention and recommendations. The international trustee system. Let's look at Article 8 of the natural resources, on how you know why the people of southern Cameroon were able to produce excess surplus in terms of cumbersome revenue. Transformation of the Tico Wharf, in which I posted a picture ago, the transformation of the Tico Wharf to a more dynamic, to be able to transport or export bananas, plantains, and others harvesting timbers and resources from the port of Tico. It was a viable economic source, more than La République du Cameroon. In fact, southern Cameroon has a more revenue supply in their balance sheet than La République du Cameroon. So, but by United Nations of the San Francisco's resolution, or the United Nations decisions, or the meeting in San Francisco here in the United States, on the same token, it says, framing the law holding transfer of land, natural resources, administrative authority shall take into consideration law and custom, and shall respect the right and safeguard the interest present in the future of the native populations. That is what is specified, and that the UK must respect the indigenous people of southern Cameroon. The subject provides the provisions, or on Article 9, the administrative authority shall have the necessary step to ensure the equal treatment of social, economic, industrial, and commercial matters for all members of these United Nations. In other words, the UK must respect the territorial integrity of southern Cameroon without engaging any monopoly power over the people of southern Cameroon. They shall ensure that the right to all national members, the territorial freedom of transit, navigation, including freedom. Those are the documents laid out on the question of southern Cameroon. So where did this come about? That UK betrayed the people of southern Cameroon and choose a foreign nation, La République du Cameroon, to govern the people of southern Cameroon. Let's look. The fourth committee of the United Nations report. The fourth committee of the United Nations report. It says on paragraph 63, approval of trustee agreement. The General Assembly separate the following 8 trustee agreement. The following 8 trustee agreement. It said they proposed a trusteeship agreement, the New Guinea, submitted by the government of Australia. Are you getting how the trustee territory came? On the adoptees in the report, the resolution adopted on the report of the 4th Committee of the United Nations, paragraph 63, approval of trustee agreement. There were 8 assembly. 1, the proposed trustee agreement of New Guinea, submitted by the government of Australia. 2, the proposed trustee agreement for Luanda and Burundi, submitted by the government of Belgium. There were 8 trustees agreement. Then the proposed trustee agreement for Cameroon under the French mandate. The trustee agreement under the French mandate territory, submitted by the government of France. The proposed trustee agreement of Togoland under the French mandate, submitted by the government of France. The proposed trustee agreement of Western Samora, submitted by the government of New Zealand. 6. The proposed trustee agreement of Tanganyika submitted by the government of the United Kingdom. The proposed trustee agreement of Cameroon under the British submitted by the government of the United Kingdom in reference to the people of Southern Cameroon. Those were the proposal. And the last but not the least, the proposed trustee agreement of Togoland under the British mandate submitted by the government of the United Kingdom. Those were the territorial report, the fourth committee selecting territory. If those documents submitted by the various nations to recognize the people of Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroon and the various nations key members, all those nations that I have listed are now sovereign nations on its own with its own sovereign government. Why did the UK government falsify people of Southern Cameroon should live under another mandate of the United Nations submitted by France? Okay, let's look. The establishment of the trustee territory, December 1946, accordance with Article 85 of the Charter of the Terms of the Trustee Agreement. New Guinea or Luanda, Cameroon under the French administration, Togoland under the French administration, Western Samora and Tanganyika, Cameroon under the British administrative authority, Togoland under the British administration. Those are the territory that bound by this, and each of them, except the people of Southern Cameroon, has not got its independence per this establishment. Is there any significant difference why the people of Southern Cameroon, with this resolution that the people of Southern Cameroon has not been given their full right for their independence? Is there any reason? Of course, the betrayal, the royal betrayal of the British government vis-a-vis the people of Southern Cameroon. Of course, and they have the audacity of writing me, telling me that they recognize the people of Southern Cameroon voted to join La République du Cameroon. First, wait a minute. Really? Okay. The people of Southern Cameroon did not. Let's look at the 994 plenary meeting of 21st of April 1961. It says Resolution 1350 X of 13 of March 1959 concerning the future of the trustee territory, Cameroon under the British administration. General Assembly recommendation inter alia. The United Nations plebiscite commission for Cameroon under the United Kingdom, Cameroon with S under the United Kingdom, commissioner. Administrations organized under a supervision of a plebiscite in the north and in the south part under the United Nations, United Kingdom. The north voted in November to join La République du Cameroon, to join Nigeria. On the basis of the two set questions, why was there on the basis of two set questions? Why? If I deduce, it says under the trustee agreement, be prepared for their rightful independence. Of the names of the nations that were in this list, all had their independence except the people of Southern Cameroon. The British framed this fact that two options, there were a set of two questions, resolutions. Either you opted for an independent by joining La République, or you opted for an independent by joining Nigeria. So it means they impose upon the people of Southern Cameroon, without disregard to the indigenous people that manifested by the United Nations, that it should be the key factor of deciding Is that what the indigenous people of Southern Cameroon wanted? Of course, that is not true. The UK forced the people of Southern Cameroon into a nightmare that we are now facing. They have the audacity and saying the people of Southern Cameroon voted overwhelmingly to support to leave with La République du Cameroon. And so that facilitates, as you all listen from our colleagues speaking about the natural resources, so that they cannot be liable to this very rule of the San Francisco 1946 agreement, that the people of Southern Cameroon ought to be able to manage their resources in a plain language. Oh my God. How did this happen to the people of Southern Cameroon? Of course, UK is the permanent member of the Security Council. They concentrate on talking about it even when the UK officials asking the people of Southern Cameroon, even the UK parliamentarians speaking vehemently. You wouldn't find the Prime Minister even talk about it, but they more watchful, paying close attention, signing lucrative contracts, and the slaughtering of citizens of Southern Cameroon is an ongoing pandemic. Let's look again. On the so-called plebiscite that was voted, it says there was one say yes in English and the other say oui in French. So if you were to vote, which document would you have chosen? If one was saying yes in English and the other say oui for French, and give me, if you were an opposing candidate, which document would you have chosen? Maybe because the citizens of Southern Cameroon did not speak French, they did not understand what we mean, but now we now know what it is today. But that is the betrayal of the UK government in reference to me, that the people of Southern Cameroon voted overwhelmingly to support the neighboring country, La République du Cameroon, in which, in fact, that is a very disturbing. It's absolutely disturbing. Listening from the UK government, that the people of Southern Cameroon voted overwhelmingly, and the slaughtering of our citizens and brothers because of the systematic failure of the UK system. If the document were intended to be respected, then La République has no voice in Southern Cameroon whatsoever. In fact, arresting our citizens and placing them under carnivorous jail. And UK, of course, it doesn't matter to them. So long as it's the black race and they are capable to delete the resources, signing lucrative contract with La République du Cameroon that facilitate them to exploit natural gas, and the slaughtering of our citizens is not matter to them. They provide military, they provide aiding La République du Cameroon, providing resources that are available to their disposal to use and buy war equipment and slaughtering our citizens. That is the UK government that we speak of. That's the Queen we speak of. If you look critically on these images that I'm showing to you, that is the Queen when she was younger. That is her meeting the official delegation of Southern Cameroon. They are not La République citizens. Those are the member delegation. Those are the Prime Minister of Southern Cameroon. Those are the official delegation of Southern Cameroon that the young Queen, who is now 90-something years old, meeting the people of Southern Cameroon, member cabinet government officials. What a royal betrayal. It is very, very disturbing to watch this and see who is La République to control the aspect and the life of the people of Southern Cameroon. Of course, the fact that we have the United Nations, which is just a tool placed there for France and UK government and what else? If UK can quit European Union after a few months of living together. After a few months of living together with the European Union, they can't even live together with them, even when they share common identity. But they expect the people of Southern Cameroon to live with La République du Cameroon, despite the fact that UK has its own government. They rule. They have its own government. They rule. Whereas France, Germany, Belgium, and all those, they have their government. But it's just a gentleman meeting coming together to sit and discuss. But yet they can't live together. And yet British see the people of Southern Cameroon as a vis-a-vis to be able to live together with the foreign nation, La République du Cameroon. And they respect the territorial integrity, while the UK in territorial integrity is none of them. Well, that is what is going on in Southern Cameroon territory. The fraudulence of the UK royal house that has caused havoc, and they're still ongoing in Southern Cameroon. I would expect the UK government to apologize for the wrongdoing, that they are sorry, and that it was a systematic failure on their part, and that they recognize the government of Southern Cameroon to stand up its expectation. It says, the province of territorial integrity. I am very deeply disturbed when I listen to the UK officials citing the territorial integrity of Cameroon, which Cameroon is she of course spoken of. Well, that is the world we find ourselves, that have been twisted and present the wrong and dwell on the wrong and accept the wrong to be the right purpose. And that is the world we live on. Fellow brothers and sisters, it is the truth that we must speak up. It is true we must stand expose this wrongdoing on behalf of the people of Southern Cameroon.
History has not forgotten that Buea was the headquarters of West Cameroon. History has not forgotten that Buea was the capital of Southern Cameroon. And history has not forgotten that Buea was once the capital of German Cameroon. That is why I say that Buea is a historic town. I am proud, very proud to be in Buea. Proud to walk on the same soil like our heroes.
Big intro,